Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to jump into an event and try out what is essentially the Heroes team, but being led by TEQ Fusion ZAMASU. So last night on the podcast, we talked about in the Trash Take segment, someone had submitted a take about TEQ LR ZAMASU, and how he feels that this unit has aged a lot better than the unit with no limits, there's counterpart, right? The living meme, the AGL Goku and Vegeta, which, I mean, that part is probably true, but the take then went on to say that this guy is still super viable and he doesn't understand why he's dropped out of people's top 10 lists. And we had a good bit of discussion on that, so go check out the podcast if you haven't seen it. I'm not going to go over the full discussion that we had here, but somebody in the chat was like, use ZAMASU with the Heroes team. So I thought, you know what, we'll do that, because all of these units on this build for the Heroes team all get the full 200% lead from ZAMASU, because he has Realm of Gods, Worldwide Chaos, or Fused Fighters, and then gives the plus 30% to Time Travelers, which most of the Heroes units are. So everyone on this team gets the full 200% leader skill. And yeah, I thought we would just jump in, give him a try and see how we get on. Obviously, you know, we're doing the Blue Gogeta Blue Zone, which is not, you know, the hardest event anymore or anything like that. But when it comes to these kind of stages like Janemba, I don't think are going to be particularly good for these guys, or this team in general. I mean, I have beaten Janemba with the Heroes team, but it's not really something that I like to do for sort of like a showcase video or something like that, because, you know, those runs can easily just end on the first turn. So I thought we would jump in and at least have a go through here and see how we get on. Now, ZAMASU does work very nicely with a lot of these newer Heroes units, because so many of them do actually have big bad bosses. Well, I say so many, but like Fu, Demigra, obviously Mechikabra getting his Easy A. So we could run ZAMASU on rotation and then have a big bad bosses partner for him every turn, like very easily. And then, of course, if we were using ZAMASU in slot 1, the Heroes units in slot 2 will then be sharing a ton of links with the units that are in slot 3. And we can end up getting a pretty good sort of cycle going here with these units. But I mean, TEQ ZAMASU, I always thought he was really good. I felt like he was a little bit underrated even, potentially, like when the worldwide celebration happened. Maybe because of his team, I'm not too sure. But like, he was the first domain unit, right, other than the free-to-play trunks that they dropped, like to sort of show off the mechanic. But he was like the first domain unit. And he was a lot of fun to use. I mean, you think about now, if you're using him on a team like this, where there are no other characters that have a domain for his to clash with, like, his domain will be very useful on this team, because it makes him into like an invincible slot 1 tank, and he provides support. So he could actually be really, really useful. I think the big problem for him was obviously with the anniversary on JP, the anniversary coming a lot quicker after the worldwide. The introduction of Broly, the Super Bosses team. I mean, when the Super Bosses team first became a thing for global and everything, ZAMASU was still a useful unit to run on that team. But obviously he clashes his domain with Broly. And it's not just a case of the domain clashes and you have to choose which one to use for the actual the effect of the domain. It's the fact that the domain is directly tied to Broly being able to transform, and so obviously you want to transform Broly, so you end up like never using ZAMASU's domain. And of course, you know, he starts off as a really strong defensive unit with a bunch of damage reduction, and then that starts to drop off, and essentially that's where he's like started to age out, right, and has kind of aged out of the meta, and why he's not really in the top 10 anymore is he's very strong right at the start and then gets a little bit weaker as we go. Now, of course, if you are then sort of going into his domain, then that kind of removes that issue. But I feel like it's the case now. We have so many characters with the domains and so many combos that we can use together. ZAMASU's one becomes less favourable. And obviously, you know, at this point, this unit is over a year old, so he can still perform relatively well, but he's obviously not hitting the kind of attack stats that the current sort of new Dokkan Fest exclusives, LRs and stuff like that are hitting. But he can still be very good. So I really want to risk Rosé in slot 1 to get the extra stacks for him here, because I mean, Fu benefits from getting extra stacks as well, but Rose really does. Did they even super last turn? I don't think, did they? Because if they didn't, they're probably going to super in slot 1. I'm going to risk it, even though I probably shouldn't, because if I float Rose off again, this is the last turn before Rose transforms. Yeah, it's a bit risky. 100k. Rose can still be okay, like post super, because he gets defense on super, he gets defense from his super attack effect, and then obviously he has guard. But he, wow, he just got the 1, because obviously we have a Goku enemy, so he has the potential to get like 3 supers in this turn. But unfortunately, not the case. So Demigra just finishes him off. We lose a bit of health, but obviously we can regenerate that fairly easily with Mechikabra. I should probably... Shall I float off? I float off Mechikabra and get him on rotation with... See, that's the only problem, though. We got 190k defense. So we're on turn 5. If we take a look at his passive, so his entrance animation... which I guess I should have played, really, since the video was about him. But it's 20% damage reduction for 4 turns from his entry turn. But I think my one... Actually, my one was first on turn 3, so he actually should still have... Was he on turn 3? He wasn't on turn 1, was he? I don't know. I've lost track already. But I think he might still have it. But yeah, another Realm of Gods ally on the team, which obviously most of these heroes units are, which is good. We have no... Well, we do have a Realm of Gods enemy, so he is a bit weaker in this event specifically. Damage reduction, 40%, 50% when receiving an attack, defense, HP is 70% or less when receiving an attack, he gets extra defense, and then he gets an additional attack that has a high chance to become a super within the same turn after receiving an attack, and he builds up attack with each attack received. So... I don't know, does he have his defense? Because if we put you next to him, then obviously we go up to 238, which is a bit better. I mean, I could do this, I guess, try and rely on the Aos dodge, roll the dice here a little bit and see what happens. We've got a lot of AGL orbs here, so we can do that. Grab, oh, I needed the 7. I swiped slightly too far to the right there. Dodge, Aos. She did not dodge, so we are dead. God damn it. Okay, so we're back to the Gogeta phase. We are looking better in terms of the overall turns. I think we got here slightly faster as well. So we have the this friend ZAMASU definitely still has his damage reduction. I mean, you can see here, like Gogeta, as we've said, not the toughest of bosses anymore, especially in this first STR phase where he's in base. Him still doing like nearly 20k damage with the normal attacks here obviously means that a super attack probably still going to be doing pretty reasonable amount of damage to ZAMASU. But I mean, ZAMASU can still be an interesting and fun unit to use. Sharing a few links with these guys, Big Bad Bosses, Godly Power, obviously the new heroes units, they all have Fierce Battle, so that works out quite well for him. I mean, obviously for some of these guys, like Mechikabra paired with Demigra or Fu, has more links active, will be doing a bit more damage, but obviously attack lowering here is fairly useful as well. But these guys can still work like relatively well. I need to double check actually which the standby condition, because we do want to use it here when we have the chance to get it. So it is 70% or less, HP 70% or less from the 5th turn. I suppose that's the one thing, or when there's a Future Saga ally attacking in the same turn or enemy from the 7th turn, which we don't have any Future Saga units, unfortunately, because of the heroes setup. But I guess that's the thing that is still very true of him, that was always the issue with like the Blue Boys, is that their condition is very similar, right? So like ZAMASU, you have to be below a certain amount of HP unless you have the right ally on the rotation. So there are runs where you can go through and not actually see like the ZAMASU standby. Just like with the Blue Boys, you know, you can get to the turn where you really want to fuse with them and then you can't fuse. The difference, of course, is that most of the time with the Blue Boys, if you get to that point and then you can't fuse, you end up getting killed. Whereas with ZAMASU, I mean, he is defensively weaker at that point, but can still be like somewhat viable. I can't believe he just did that as well. Mechikabra changed the TEQ orbs to... That would have been such a great start of turn here for us. I mean, ZAMASU could absolutely get blasted here. really would like to get some orbs, but I also don't want to screw over Mechikabra, so I guess we'll only get the 12 key super for you. And then we can get 16 orbs for Mechikabra, so great turn for him. And then we'll just do this. Now, how well will ZAMASU tank a super in slot 1? Oh, yeah, not well at all. 255k type neutral. Oof. Alright, well, I definitely wasn't expecting it to be that high. So, yeah, there you go. That's it's been a while since I've used ZAMASU. I thought we'd dust him off for this video idea. But, yeah, that's a lot of damage. Now, I wonder, that is obviously with his intro buff having run out. So, once the intro buff runs out for him, I mean, it's not like this is nothing new, right? He's similar on release. Like, once his intro buff runs out, you know, he's not really a slot 1 unit anymore. And that's where he is similar to the Blue Boys in the sense that you really want to be able to use that domain, like, as soon as you can, once that intro buff has run out. I'm just really tempted to see if we jump in here how much damage ZAMASU actually takes from Janemba. But, I mean, I think you can see from this video, right? Like, ZAMASU is still kind of a fun unit. If a tough boss comes out who's AGL, like, maybe you could probably still get away with running him on certain team builds. But he's certainly not, like, a meta-relevant unit anymore. And like I say, this was all based on one of the submissions for the Trash Take segment of the podcast with somebody saying they don't understand why ZAMASU isn't considered a top 10 unit anymore. And I think we can kind of see here, like, hey, we take the normal from Janemba for double-digit damage, but that's Janemba without having been buffed at all yet. I really want... I mean, he's only attacking ZAMASU's in this turn, so I really want to see ZAMASU eat a super from this Janemba and how much damage he would actually take. The problem we have, of course, with this run is that we had both the ZAMASU's on the first turn, so I don't know if we can actually even survive the second turn regardless, but... I mean, I guess we could put Eos in slot 1 and hope she dodges, because I think Demigra is in slot 7. But, be interesting to see, because of course now that Janemba's actually had a ton of build-up, how much damage ZAMASU would be taking here. It's post-super for him, so he still takes double-digit damage. And Janemba didn't super, of course. What is going on with this RNG for today, man? I wanted him to super me. Alright, so we'll do... I can't not get all the AGL orbs, which is annoying, but do Eos in slot 1, pick up the physical orbs for Rose, and then grab those for you. Eos obviously needs to dodge, of course not. Okay, there you go. I mean, we can live this turn if he supers her and she dodges. I think if he supers anyone else, like even Rose with the guard and Mechikabra with the damage reduction, if he supers anyone else, we're just dead. Although I can't say I've done a run on the Janemba stage where we've got this far in. We're in the middle of the second turn and he still hasn't super attacked yet. So there we go, of course. Gonna super attack Super Saiyan 3 Rose. I mean, considering how hard Janemba hits and how old Rose is with the guard and not a lot of links active here, that's not too bad. But man, I really wanted to see I wanted to see ZAMASU take the super attack. We'll jump in one more time here and see if ZAMASU can take the super. But yeah, obviously at the end of the day, ZAMASU can still be kind of fun, but he is absolutely not a top 10 unit anymore. Oh, there's no ZAMASU on the first turn. Are you kidding me? Bruh. Alright, well, this is just going to turn in. This is going to end up turning into like ZAMASU Heroes team versus Janemba video, but man, I just want to see ZAMASU take a super attack from Janemba. Come on. Demigra, double digits in slot 1. We'd love to see that. I mean, it's kind of a fun way to run a full Extreme Heroes team. You just have to be careful, because the problem is, and has been almost every year for Heroes, is that we don't have really, really good slot 1 tanks. And ZAMASU can kind of fulfill that role on the first turn. But once his damage reduction like starts to drop off, and before you can get the domain active, then he becomes a defensive liability, and we don't have anyone to like pick up the slack. Like Demigra can be good in slot 1, but he's not good at tanking like the really big boss super attacks in slot 1, because his start of turn defense is so low. But I mean, I've beaten Janemba with the Heroes team, so not this build specifically. I mean, we did rely on a lot of luck with like the getting the Eos and Pan like dodges, but Come on, Fu. You haven't dodged any of the other attacks, but you're going to dodge this one, right? Oh. Wow, he only took 361k. Janemba hits for like 2.8 million or something. That's insane. Now, of course, with the cooldown of Janemba's attacks, we're not going to see him super now, are we? Unless he supers Aos, which will be instant death. I mean, it's kind of impressive. I mean, turn 1 having decent damage reduction will do that, right? But, like, the fact that he can tank Janemba normals for double digits. I mean, even at the end of the turn, we saw in that first clip, right, where he didn't super attack in the first turn. Even though Janemba had been hit multiple times, ZAMASU still tanking his normals for double digits, which is fine. I just want to see how much he takes from a super. Now, this is one of those things where it's like, now it's the run where, like, we really want a specific unit on the team to get hit with a super attack. So obviously now that will not be what happens, because that's what we want to happen. And yeah, we're still taking 50k. Man, I fought hard for Rose, like, on release. I thought he was underrated, but he has not aged the best. Like, just having guard, goddamn Aos, not having guard is or just having guard is not quite good enough, unfortunately. But here's what it is. All right, we'll have one last attempt here of jumping in and trying to see if ZAMASU can get supered by Janemba on the first turn. But otherwise, we will be wrapping things up here. But yeah, unfortunately, ZAMASU, I was kind of hoping that maybe he could have, like, hung in there just a little bit better. But, you know, he's a unit that is like 2 years old at this point. So we can't really be expecting great things from him. But he was good for his time. He's probably still usable in some events with AGL bosses, but he certainly is not a top 10 character anymore, which is a shame, but, you know, he's still very interesting, very cool design, but as with all units in this game, power creep is what it is. I mean, we don't even have, like, the hardest event. Of course, he didn't get supered again. We don't even have the hardest event on Global, so I don't think he would be matching up very well against Goku and Frieza, especially because he is getting weaker defensively as you go through the event, and by the time you get to Goku and Frieza and then they're below 50% HP, that's when they go absolutely crazy, and at that point, if ZAMASU's not in his domain, then he's just going to be dead. But anyway, there you go. Let me know what you guys think of TEQ LR Fusion ZAMASU. How did you feel about him when he first came out in the game? What are your thoughts on him now? Obviously, you know, not the craziest unit anymore, but he had his day. He was fun. I enjoyed using him during that meta when he released. But let me know all your thoughts on him down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.